But I noticed you had responded about GB and some consultants that were hired. So perhaps you could explain a little bit about this grid market in partnership with Island Resilience Partnership and Energy Nautics. From the release, I understood that the grid market was hired by government and Energy Nautics was hired by GB. So perhaps you could clarify who's been hired by whom and what their strategy is. But it goes back to a really fundamental question with about GB and consultants in general. Consultants need data, and the fact that GB is still struggling to provide the most basic information in terms of billing for services provided, electricity and water. Would government consider bringing in outside advisors to audit and to review the GB's financial crisis in terms of being able to bill? And these consultants, I assume they would also need some sort of an island development plan. So in terms of, has St. Martin reached a carrying capacity? What are the plans to permit more development? In other words, what the future energy needs for the country would be? What kind of information is being shared with these consultants?
Grid market was indeed procured through the Department of Buck under the Ministry of General Affairs. Buck also, not Buck, but representatives from that department together with Ministry of Tayat, Ministry of Rami, as well as GB form part of the Energy Policy Work Group. Grid Market was commissioned to do a study, a research, and to prepare a roadmap towards renewable energy for St. Martin. So we have a very broad map. As I've mentioned in many press briefings and on the floor of Parliament, NVGB has not always had persons being part of that group. So though they are form part of it, there's an existing policy from 2014 that needed to be revamped, upgraded, and is being upgraded still. There was inconsistent participation over the years from NVGEBE based on who was management at the time. And as you know, we had a lot of different changes during that time. So I'm not pointing the finger at anyone in particular, but priorities, etc. So Grid Market was not able to get all of the information needed from GEBE in providing us as government with a roadmap. So the roadmap was lacking or is lacking some key information from NVGEBE. NVGB, in the meantime, when we did get them on board, was busy with the hack, was busy with the whole, and many consultants actually assisting the temporary management in assessing and making a plan on the way forward. It is with that management that they took up the opportunity to make use of a trust fund project, which not only, so they were doing the cabling and getting more of our overhead underground, because we are actually quite far with that. So that was part of the trust fund to continue to build that resiliency. GB was working along with that, but there was also some funds available for strategic planning, also towards renewable energy, and the business plan of NVGB. So, of course, with the finances being what they were, management made use of that opportunity. And so the consultant, I don't know the name, you mentioned it, Energy Nautics, was procured via that, I believe. And I can fact check that to be sure, but if it doesn't need to be corrected, then what I said can stand. But don't hold, don't burn a candle on that one. Indeed, the company is working out a strategic business plan for NVGB. In doing that, they are assessing the grid itself. So the production, the usage, all of the data that exists within GB to be able to come up with what is best for GB to be able to transition. They are looking, so I have asked NVGB to, of course, take along government's plan in their strategic planning and they have agreed to do that. It does not mean what I explained in Parliament, that Grid Market would be the company they use moving forward. They were who government used to get their roadmap. So there continues to be a back and forth of why this one and why that one. GB felt they needed to do their complete due diligence. There was the funding available for it, and they are busy with all of the upgrades necessary to be able to do the billing, etc. as well. So the hack basically exposed a lot of challenges that NVGB already faced in its administration, and a way in which it was the financial aspects were speaking to each other, and so that's why there's been such a challenge to get the information to the people. But I know we're down to the last 10%, and I'm hoping within short that we will get the updates from GEBE as to where we are, how far the strategic plan is, etc., moving forward. So it's supposed to be able to synchronize and not be two different floating things out there, because at the end of the day, government is shareholder of GB, and government also has the power with the concession where GB is concerned.
For all of life's twists, turns, and defining moments, RBC is a blend for all of you. SXM, your social and health insurance is SXM, your social and health insurance is.
Are you SXV insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXV is cardless. Request your My SXV account today and enter the virtual office of SXV. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
SXV, yeah, your social and health insurance is.
Transparency is key, and that's the reason why I'm asking critical questions. Some might take it personal, but it's not personal. It's not about us in here, it's about the people. That being said, we have all been seeing the different videos surrounding in our community in regards to the different school fights. All have been going viral. We, as the people, must ensure that our children don't end up in prison. Rehabilitation is a must. And for the ones that know, I have been a long-time advocate for this cause. So therefore, action is needed. We need to be creative. I'm therefore also pleased to see Mr. Violines, also known as Lexi, who I know from my legal capacity, as an attorney to see that he wrote a book, Surviving Point Blanche Prison, for a long time. You can order this book now through Amazon. This book also need to be spreaded, in my opinion, because it's not available in hard copy. It should be in hard copy so that the knowledge can be shared under our youth. Because often we realize a lack of knowledge can have other consequences. We need to involve and empower our community.
I would like to know is that which stakeholders were consulted. I didn't, I'm missing that aspect of it. In my other capacity, I think it's something that could be used, but it's very important to know what stakeholders were consulted. And number two, I think it's a bit, well, to me, a bit unclear on the Second Amendment. It's very long, that was said. And I see that you say that you received advice. Did you consult with the Minister of Finance on any of these budget amendments?
Thank you, MP Utley. MP Roseberg.
Thank you very
continue and
much
respond
for
to the
those two questions. In connection to the VSA ministry, the stakeholders that were consulted were in regards to the ones that work with the different help desks, and the fact that once because this is not something that just came about, once it was made known, or once the public saw that seeing my legal expertise and my legal job as an attorney and providing the legal advice, the community came to me, and also those working in VSA made it known, like, is this only politically related, or is it something that will take place on a structural basis, because we are in need of that on St. Martin. And therefore I had a meeting with the department connected to the different help desk, and based on what was brought forward, I used that in this amendment. Also, in regards to consulting the Ministry of Finance, what I did is I looked at the budget, and seeing that I'm not a numbers person, I knew that to look at the budget and to make sure that it stays budget neutral and see where are the funds being used from, because that was my input. And also the specialists from the finance ministry made it clear, okay, if you're moving funds, how are you moving them to make sure that it stays budget neutral? So to answer the question of the MP Utley, I did consult indirectly by asking how to make it neutral and make sure that it's not surpassing the budget. So I think that question was answered.
I came with a few questions for the Minister of Justice on Carnival. And then I was like, you're going to inherit that anyway. Why ask the question? And then I was like, okay, I have some more questions for the Minister of Finance. I have questions. And I was like, but what sense does it make? Because you're simply going to get the same answers. I came with a whole set of pictures of Mary Laurent School in Miller Region. Those were the pictures I had from since I did the live during the election time with Clyde Martin, a member of parliament. Now, picture right next to the school. No windows, no roof, no nothing. All those pictures I came with to stick them up on the board so I can explain to the people of St. Martin why I will not be supporting this budget. Because I don't believe in millions, 36 million or 30 million for a prison. And hear what I'm saying, and we can't even get a library bill. You realize the tone change. I ain't say the government, you know. Time before that I would say, but this government can't even build a library. I said, but we Can't even get a library bill. Can't even put a roof on the school. The Minister of Education walked in, 12 million. Charlotte Brooks in. 12 million. On top of John Lamley Center and drawings and you know, I look at builders in this hall. I look at them. Not one of them could tell me that the John Lamley Center is conducive or a correct place for a school. For a school.
I just kind of want to take full circle, right? Because I kept things, every time I come up here for a budget debate, I really try to stick to the facts. I try to stick to the numbers. And it's either what's in the budget or what is being offered up on presentations that we get from the ministers. And every time you come back to the budget, you learn something new. This may be, I think, maybe my third or fourth budget. But if anyone can see the size of it, this year it was like 100 extra pages, right? So it's a lot to go through, and it's only normal that when you come, like, you know, every time you have to go in, you get something more, you learn something more, you go deeper into something that you didn't notice beforehand. And I asked a simple question, a very simple question. I said, I just want to get an understanding of how much personnel we have, how much we need, what else we can do with it going forward. And I was really quite surprised on it. It wasn't to make anybody trip up. It was just a basic question I wanted to make sure that we can support government. Because our role here, besides holding them accountable, is making sure that what government is doing, we're in alignment with, that we can actually support them in that. And I'll give you a brief example of, as I go through the ministries in terms of obtaining this information. So, without any issues at all, at the end of me requesting these questions from Central Committee meeting and then coming into it again in this OVE, in this public meeting, there was one ministry that stood out to me, and that was the Ministry of Finance. And the reason it stood out to me is because they knew exactly what I was asking. And perhaps maybe, you know, I don't mean no offense to anyone, but when you're asking questions from a financial perspective, finance people get it. So I literally wanted to know, what do we have in accordance with our function book? What do we have that is actually in place? What is there at the end of the year? What else do we need? And what I found out was, for an example, the Ministry of Finance, in their function book, they have 200 people, but what they actually really have at the end of the year is 206 persons, which means their function book also needs to be updated to reflect 206 persons. And that is the purpose of my question, is how can I support you? Because when here on this side, the 15 members of parliament actually understand what is happening in government, then you'll see that we're really working for the people because we're supporting government in exactly what they need.
We're going to bring something new for St. Martin. But under one condition, I want to ask all those that are going an extra mile for their country, for example, the politicians, the ministers now, all that has St. Martin at heart, for us to stop breaking each other every day, criticizing each other, and try to work on our mindset to become positive and constructive people in this country. Nowadays, we wake up in the morning, the first thing we do, we're going to open our phones and look at the headlines on social media. And the more destructive they are for our own people that we should love, the more we're going to enjoy the session with our telephone. I really believe that this has to stop. And I'm asking my people of St. Martin to reset all our minds to become positive people with a great love for each other. We need a budget, and I said it yesterday, it has to be a different other budget, but unfortunately, again, it was turned into a political game. Well, that was not my intention. I said that this budget had some risks for the coming 4 years, and this figure 85, or 58 in this case, I think it's 70 by the way, but 58 has been mentioned, and I will respect it, is one of the risks of this budget. But as Mr. MP Christopher Emmanuel said, it is what it is. We will not be demotivated, and we will do what we have to do.
Madam Chair, I want to start off with congratulations. Congratulations to the outgoing ministers. I got cake here from them as they celebrated exactly 4 years in government, a feat never seen before in St. Martin. History was made today, March 28th. Made exactly 4 years since you took office. So congratulations, but I must change your name from the outgoing government to the government of overtime, because you officially on overtime now. Since the incoming government, the supposed to soon be realized government, as my colleague MP say, the 2x4 government, the Messalina cabinet, or when they get in government. Yesterday, the word of the day was halt, they say. But we're going to change it up today. The contradiction. The government of contradiction. And let me explain why. Exactly why I say the government of contradiction. We got some members over there talking about Palatino. We got others over here saying no Palatino. We got some over there talking about faction staff increase. We got others saying no faction staff increase. We got some, you want Zaha Ackley, Kale. So I refer to them as the government of contradiction. And right here, we just hear them say, one say, they take the 2x4, they put it down, they put blocks on it. But when we hear the leader of the coup, he say, I thank the MP for putting on the 2x4, and we putting on the blocks, and putting the 2x4 on it, and then putting tarpaulin on it. So which one it is? Which one it is? As an engineer, and a modern engineer, to my colleague MP, 2x4 is no longer the most used or the most needed thing in construction. Those days done, my friend. We got modern things we do. No more batter boards. We got lasers for those things. We got all kind of Docker systems. We don't need no more 2x4.
Your social and health insurance is your social and health insurance is.
Are you SXV insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXV is cardless. Request your My SXV account today and enter the virtual office of SXV. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
SXV, yeah. Your social health insurances. For all of life's twists, turns, and defining moments, RBC is a blend for all of you.
It's moments before the start of Parliament and the MPs started rolling in. Among them, Leader of Government Business Edmund Bartlett. We sought a comment about the Auditor General's report being returned and the subsequent reprimand of the Clerk of the House by the Speaker Juliet Holness.
That's a matter that we're dealing with, an internal matter. We deal with it.
Do you think to throw the
It will be that matter over there. Okay.
the letter of reprimand, do you think to throw the administration under the bus? The Prime Minister would follow, but we were unable to get a word in as he was ushered inside, guarded from the media. Former MP Senator K.D. Knight, however, had lots to say on the issue.
When Mrs. Curtis was coming up through the ranks, I found her to be a very dedicated public servant, an efficient person, and I found her to be au fait with the rules.
Parliament started 41 minutes later than scheduled, and when it did, the House Speaker broke her silence, prefacing her statement about the varying interpretation of the laws governing the matter.
I have taken a further decision to today table the reports which are in question.
The two Auditor General reports in question, one on the Financial Services Commission and the other Tax Administration of Jamaica, were tabled today. Mrs. Holness also announced that she hopes to meet with the Auditor General, Pamela Monroe Ellis, to discuss the matter later this week. But the opposition wanted more. Leader of Opposition Business, Philip Powell, again asked for a reason to be given for the previous reluctance to table the reports, as well as details of the Attorney General's advice to her. As for the letter reprimanding the Clerk of the Houses in the matter, the opposition wanted it to be withdrawn immediately.
The tone of it, Madam Speaker, I don't think we as a Parliament could proceed today without having a discussion on this point. And for you, Madam Speaker, to indicate really what motivated that action yesterday in upgrading the clerk, in disciplining the clerk in the way that it was done.
I advise you, both from myself and the clerk, that we are in dialogue and wish to say nothing else at this time. Clerk, announcements, please. Ms. Curtis, announcements. As it relates to supplying the Parliament the legal opinion from the Attorney General's chamber, I remain in the same position I did when the ruling was given, in that the opinion of the Parliamentary Legal Counsel was circulated to the Parliament and the public. That has not changed.
She again insists that the Speaker's ruling is final in this regard. She defended her view that the reports are not being tabled properly, but says she decided to table them in the interest of airing the findings of the Auditor General's probes public. Kirk Wright, TVJ News.